Hello, everyone. So we're going to get started. So first of all, I'm your guest MC tonight. I don't know. So my name's Gerhard. I was the founder of Beer Ops. Has anyone been to Beer Ops here? Okay, quite a few. Okay, cool. Yeah, so I've been asked to be your MC tonight. So hope I do all right. Tonight is a special night because K8SUG is turning 1 year old today. So 1 year old. So congratulations to the K8s community. So this is Meetup number 13. There's 1,150 members, 4,000 LinkedIn followers. So if you haven't followed us, please do. And we'll get started. So before we get cracking, the bathrooms are that way to the right. If there's an emergency, the fire stairs are next to the left. So I doubt it, but there you go. Next slide. See if this works. Here we go. And we'll start by acknowledging an acknowledgement of country. So Kubernetes Australia respectfully acknowledges the traditional land of the Kulin Nation people. We pay our respects to their elders, past, present, and emerging. Our mission, we're a passionate group of Kubernetes technologists, and our mission is to accelerate Kubernetes adoption. We're learning from each other and sharing best practices. So that's what we're here for. Today's topic, we have Sanjeewa, who'll be talking about harnessing Kubernetes gateway. And we have Thiago, who'll be talking about navigating the Kubernetes space. So some good talks coming up. We have some upcoming events. I'm not sure if anybody is going to travel to Singapore or Canada. If so, here we go. The UK and Australia's us here. So there we go. Oh, actually, that's past, isn't it? Oh, yeah. Sorry, you can't go back in time. So it's not upcoming, past events. So here we go. But follow the webpage because they're going to be future events, obviously. So there's free K8s training. A lot of things are covered in that training from 101 all the way up. So you can have a quick look at that. So if you do want to go on some training, do follow us. You can join the next K8s workshop here. So I'll just give a moment for you to scan the QR code. All righty. Is everyone good? I'll give it another 5 seconds. All righty. Next slide. So without our sponsors, none of this could happen. So they pay for the drinks, the food, they provide the venues. So it's important that we recognize it, our sponsors. We have CNCF, Code Cloud, AWS for this amazing venue. Thank you. And WSO2. And thanks to our volunteers, they volunteer their time to bring this community to you. It's an important job. Without them, this event wouldn't happen. So thanks to Mark, Susan, Harrison, Prasanna, Thiago, and Jan. So take a moment to scan to join us if you want to be a speaker, a volunteer, or a sponsor. And I might introduce our first speaker, Sanjeewa. Okay. Thanks, Sanjeewa.
Can see, right? Okay. Okay, thanks everyone. So in this session, I would like to primarily discuss about Kubernetes Gateway API specification, and we are doing some interesting work related to that specification. So last time when we had this discussion, we thought of like sharing our experience and what we have done with this Gateway API. So my name is Sanjeewa. So I started my career way back in 2010 as a cloud engineer. So throughout this period, I primarily work as a integration engineer, gateway related engineer, like mainly gateway API management and integration areas. So if I tell you a little bit about myself, I currently work at WSO2 as a director of engineering. So I overlook API management product, but pretty much almost all the things related to integration is something I do. So in today's session, we will first discuss about, so I think in this session, we assume like different level of audience are here. With that, we will start with the accessing services in Kubernetes, and I will discuss about the ingress. So then we will see why we wanted to have something like Gateway API specification. Then I will discuss a little bit about the usages of Gateway API, some sample configurations and how these things work. And then I'll discuss about API management and the API gateways as well. So then let's see how we can make APIs first-class citizens in Kubernetes ecosystem. And then we will do a very short demo as well. Okay, so to start with, let's see how we can access services deployed in Kubernetes cluster. So how many of you are familiar with these like deploying services, exposing them through ingress? Can you please raise your hand? Yeah, I see a lot of people can do that. So when you develop your services in Kubernetes, like it can be Flask application or it can be Spring application. What you do is you develop a set of services and then you deploy those services as application pods. And there are multiple ways that you can expose these services to outside world or within the cluster. So one such option is to invoke that through the service, or else you can directly get pod IPs and you can invoke that as well. But most preferred way is access that to service. So now let's see how we expose this service to outside world. I mean, outside your cluster, how we expose this service. Because in the end, when you move these services into production systems, you will have to expose your service to outside your Kubernetes cluster. So when we do that, there are multiple ways again that we can do. So one such option is node port. So now I'm not going to discuss these things in detail, but I'll try to give you a very high level idea. So with the node port, you can basically get the node IP, node port, and through that you can invoke that service from the outside. And also load balancer is another option, and ingress is another option. So ingress is the most like a preferred and common option because with that we can do some additional things like SSL termination, load balancing, path-based routing. So these things are possible with the ingress very easily. So due to that fact, I would say ingress is quite popular than other options when it comes to expose services outside. So now let's see how we can expose service outside using ingress. So let's say, as you can see here, I have multiple services. So I'm trying to build a shopping cart application. So when we do that, we got a few services. First one is the search service, then we have order service, then we have payment service. So now I need to expose these services to outside world. And to do that, I'm going to set up ingress. So in the ingress level, I can configure rules to say, okay, so if I get https shoppingcart.com/search, it needs to go to search service. And eventually it will go to pods associated with search service, something like that. Then if I get request to order, then it needs to go to order service. Likewise, we can configure that. So with the ingress, we can configure these things very easily. So this is sample ingress configuration. So as you can see here, you can, it start with the basic version and you can provide the name and then you can provide implementation. So there are a lot of implementations out there. So Nginx traffic, and there are a lot of implementations out there. So you can mention one of the such implementation. Then you can write your rules. So basically, which host name you need to route, so if you get admin path where it need to go, likewise you can configure different routes as well. So now we understand the basics about ingress. So now let's see some of the limitations. So some of the possible improvements we can do for the ingress. So one such limitation is ingress specification mainly support HTTP and HTTPS only. So I'm not going to here discuss about ingress implementations, whereas like Nginx or Traffic. So they do support other protocols, but here in this talk, I primarily focus on ingress specification. So if you look at the specification, these are certain limitations associated with the specification. So one is protocol limitation. Another one is when it comes to load balancing, like you can do basic load balancing, but if you want to like do more sophisticated load balancing, there are some limitations. And also when it comes to routing, you can do path and hostname based routing, but to do additional stuff, you need some kind of a custom annotations with the implementers. And also when it comes to security, it can do basically SSL termination and TLS part. But if you look at some modern requirement like OAuth 2 authentication, rate limiting, so that kind of things are not covered in the specification out of the box. And apart from that, certain limitations to custom rules as well. Okay. So then, like I said earlier, when there are like multiple vendors, like Nginx, Traffic and all, so they have implemented different features in different ways using the vendor extensions available. So if you start with the one vendor, then one common problem is those annotations might not work when you try to move same configuration in to another vendor. So that issue is there. And there's a learning curve associated with that as well, because you have to learn configuration or the custom annotation from one vendor. But when you try to go to another one, you will have to learn these things again. And one other thing is, if you remember this configuration, ingress configuration, you can see here we are like configuring multiple things. So we are specifying port, host, and cluster level thing. And at the same time, we are configuring application specific things also here. But if you look at standard organizations, these two configurations are done by different parties. So for example, cluster providers will determine how your API, how your gateway looks like, what ports associated, how security should work. So those kind of information determined by the cluster operators or cluster admin level people. But at the same time, application developers are responsible for defining paths and specific route to your application. So to address that, we don't have a proper RBAC mechanism with the specification. So when we discuss about the gateway API, we will see how we can mitigate these limitations. Any questions up to now? Yeah, sure.
Kubernetes, right? So we have a different vendors, right? The cloud providers, AWS, something else, right? How we can migrate the data? What is the right rule? We can do that in the Kubernetes. I'm a part of the migration team in AWS. I do a lot of migration and then API. A lot of people are asking me like, okay, I have the Kubernetes ready. And they are asking me like how to move the data from Kubernetes to other solution or other solution to Kubernetes, right? So is there like any recommendation you guys have?
Yeah. So I think towards the end of this talk, I can cover that part. Is that okay with you? Yeah. So there are some things that I scheduled for the end of the session. Okay. Yeah, we'll take that. Okay, so then I will discuss a little bit about the gateway API. So anyone familiar with the gateway API specification? Okay, so we got only one participant. So I'll tell you a little bit about Gateway API specification. So this is specifically designed to address certain limitations associated with the traditional ingress. And also the aim is to develop comprehensive and adaptable solution for the traffic management. So this initiative started way back in 2019, with the SIG Network group. So now they have like a dedicated working group, as well as the communication channels like the weekly meetings and all these things. So they are primarily working towards defining more fine-grained granular specification for Gateway API. So they are doing very impressive work. So next I will explain how this specification works. I'll provide you some samples how you can configure these things. So I would like to thank for all the users or all the group who work on this area. So now let's see the permission model associated with this Gateway API. So previously, if I remember correct, if you remember, I explained when it comes to ingress, almost all the things configured by one user, one persona. But with the Gateway API specification, they have separated that into different layers. So basically, you have something called Gateway class, which is a kind of a template. And then there are cluster operators who are defining actual gateway. So cluster operators are configuring gateway saying, okay, this is the port, this is the protocol, this is how your gateway provision. So all these actual gateway implementation related stuff, cluster providers are the ones who provide. So then comes the application developers. So application developers now don't need to worry about how your gateway configured, which ports are exported, how the security works. So all these things, they don't have to worry about that. What they have to do is they can route simple HTTP route to address their use case. Or let's say I'm an application developer who develop web application. So I can write the HTTP route to access my service. So I didn't need to mess up with the entire gateway or entire gateway class. So that way we can separate these different personas, and based on the specific permission, they can do different things. So when we go ahead with the configuration, let's see how we can do that. So this is the top level one, the gateway class. So in the gateway class, it basically says what is the actual implementation and where's the implementation reside. So then comes the gateway. So when you define gateway, you link to gateway class, and inside the gateway, you provide certain details. So what is the port? What is the protocol? Allowed routes. So that kind of basic information about gateway is something you configure with the gateway, this particular role. So this role is cluster operator. It's not the application developer, right? So now let's see what application developers are doing. So application developers are now, they don't need to worry about gateway. So they can simply refer to gateway, which is my gateway, and they can write their logic. So in this particular sample, if I explain the first one, what they are doing is they are exposing a specific service, foo.com, and they can simply refer to gateway we already created and add their route. So similar to that, there can be other developers who are developing gRPC route, and they can also use the same gateway, and they can add their specific services. So this is mainly application developers. So application developers now don't need to touch gateway configuration like top gateway level configuration at all. So they can simply write their specific logic. So these are, we can assume as two different application developers who are developing foo.com as well as the gRPC service. So they can simply write their service. So this is the permission model and how it makes developers' life easy. And then apart from that, there are some other supported stuff as well. So advanced routing is one thing, conditional decision, dynamic traffic management. So I'll go through a few use cases and give you proper understanding. So now we'll take one scenario. So in this case, I got two services. One is secured one, another one is the public service. So when you have two services like this, you have to configure gateway according to the gateway API. You can configure these two resources, and with these resources, you can say how you're gonna authenticate this one. So, for example, if I get request to secure backend, I need to do the authentication part. So, if that succeeds, then it will go to my actual secure backend. At the same time, if I get any request to public API, it can go to standard service without any security. So this kind of configurations are possible with the gateway API specification. So then, let's say we got two services to the same scenario. So we are implementing some service to search the product. And at the same time, there can be other operations like buying and payments and these kind of things. So when we do the get service call, we don't need to access database always. So we can have very optimized cashback service, which you can see on the top. So always my get call should go to that service. At the same time, put, post, delete, all these things go to DB back service. So that configuration also you can do with the gateway API specification. It's very convenient to do that kind of configurations as well. So then we'll see another example. So let's say you got one service and there are some improvements that you have done on top of that service. So now you need to route part of your traffic to a new service and see how this service behaves. So in such case, what you usually do is that we route fraction of your total traffic to a new service and then keep it monitoring for some time. So to do that, it's also configurable with the gateway API specification because you can provide this kind of canary sort of release model. Based on the some attribute or like based on your criteria, you can say, okay, 95% of my traffic should go to my standard service and 5% of traffic should go to my new service. So you can point it like that. So this configuration is also something you could do with gateway API. So then I'll take another example. There you got product search service based on the geolocation. So basically based on your location header, you need to give users a specific result. So for example, if someone search product and that person comes from Asian region, you need to return products available in Asia region. Whereas someone from Europe invoke the same service, they need to get Europe specific product. So to do that, what we usually do is that we got two services in backend. And in the gateway itself, with the gateway API specification, you can configure how we can accept this location header and how to route traffic based on that header. So this kind of configuration is also possible. So with all these examples, what I want to highlight is the some additional capabilities we have in gateway API. So if you are familiar with the ingress specification or if you are working with the ingress specification day-to-day basis, probably you will see these things as some value additions on top of what ingress specification covers. So then gateway API status, so they have done version 1.0.0 towards the Q4 of last year. So now this gateway class, HTTP route, so these things are pretty much stable and production ready. So we can see a lot of vendors adapting this specification and doing implementations because now it is reached GA. And one important thing we noticed recently is now ingress specification marked as a frozen for further developments. So which means all the developments or the active focus is now shift towards gateway API. So that is again very important point we need to highlight. And with this, I don't think ingress specification will go away immediately because like there are a lot of developments and the deployments out there with the ingress specification. So my belief is it will be there for some time, but all the active new developments or the actual implementations happen focusing on gateway API. So then I need to highlight one other thing as well. So within this gateway API working group, there was this another group formed. So it is called Gamma Initiative. So what they are focusing now is how we can do the same thing for service mesh solutions. So as you know, with the ingress specification and the gateway API, we mainly talk about north-south traffic, how your external traffic come to your Kubernetes cluster. But if you look at the within cluster itself, we got some communication, east-west communication. So if we take some kind of a service mesh solution, mainly communication happen within the service mesh will be covered by this Gamma initiative. So now this Gamma initiative, they got a separate working group and they have released version 08 recently. And they are also doing some impressive work there. So hopefully we will get some complete specification within next few months. So with that, I hope they will formalize how you define service communication within a service mesh kind of thing. So next I'll discuss a little bit about, so far we discussed about ingress specification, gateway API. So now let's see how API management related to this gateway specification and ingress. So I don't think I need to discuss about importance of API too much here because even though I had slide here, so APIs are almost everywhere. So every time when you take your mobile device and you try to search your Facebook or any other social media, you are using APIs. So according to most recent report, some organizations claim they are getting 40% of the total revenue through APIs. But if we take some organization like Expedia, Stripe, so in public reports, they have mentioned they are getting 90% of their revenue through APIs. So that's a very impressive thing, and it highlights the importance of APIs. So now, so previously we discussed about ingress gateway and the gateway API specification, and that mainly discussed about main entry point for your cluster traffic, right? So now with that in mind, most API management vendors are also now focusing on doing API management on the main entry point because that is a perfect base. So almost all the traffic to your deployment or your environment comes through the main entry point. So why don't we do API management at the main entry point? So with that in mind, various API management vendors are also now focusing on gateway API and focusing on handling API management related stuff at the cluster's entry point. So I will open this page and show you something. So this is the gateway API main page. So if you go here, you can see different implementers who actually implemented gateway API specification. So this is the list people who implemented this gateway API specification. If you see this closely, you can see there are like two kind of organization. So some people are coming from the API management background. Some are coming from like ingress or the gateway background. So with this, you can understand the importance of this because both API management and the integration and the gateway, all these vendors are now focusing on this specification. They are trying to implement something compliant with this specification. So that's us WSO2 APK down there. So we also did some work. So that is the main reason for me to be here today and discuss about the experience that we gained. Okay, so then API gateway and the gateway API, these are two different things. So I must say this because gateway API mainly discuss about how incoming traffic comes to your cluster, how it works, how routing works and all. But if you look at the API gateway, it goes a little bit beyond that. So it mainly covers authentication, authorization, rate limiting, and there are a lot more things than what gateway API specification covers. And it's not limited to that as well. So sometimes you do monetization, there will be payment plans associated with your APIs. So all these things will take care by the API gateways. So API gateway and the gateway API, they are not the same thing. It's very important to understand that. And when it comes to API management, again, gateway API, there are certain missing stuff because gateway API, we don't discuss much about like the rate limiting, billing related things, developer portal. So that whole ecosystem is something you need to manage your APIs in a comprehensive manner. So with that in mind, we developed something called WSO2 API platform for Kubernetes, and we included all these missing features and released that as a complete platform. So if I explain a little bit about how that works, so our all the configurations, we are following gateway API specification. And apart from that, we got developer portals, authentication, authorization part, developer portals. So all these things are available, and it's a 100% open source one, comes under Apache license. So you can download it, modify it, use it as you want. So it's completely open to use. So if I explain some capabilities we have in WSO2 APK, it's mainly focusing on transforming APIs into first-class citizens in Kubernetes ecosystem. So once you install this, you can create, delete, and do anything related to API-related artifact in a Kubernetes native way. Basically, you can use the K8SUG command and add API, delete API, so all these things you could do. So in addition to that, we provide developer workflows. We support API product management, and there are consumer portals. So if you want to develop API marketplace sort of thing, there are support for that as well. And also we overlook into API governance aspect as well. So basically we covered full life cycle API management in this particular product. So then when we do that, in addition to what gateway specification covers, we had to introduce certain other attributes as well. So if you remember the gateway API specification, gateway came from that, HTTP route came from that, service came from that. But when we do API management, we cannot simply survive with those things. We need some additional elements. So one is API. And at the same time, as API management vendor, token issuing parts, all these things are mandatory. And that can be something we wanted. So then what we did was, while having these standard resources, we introduced some additional things. And we did this very carefully in a way that we are not overlapping with what covers with this specification. So that means if you come up with standard specification related CRs, we honor that as well. But if you need more API management related things, then we can support that as well. So it's a mix of things. But if you come up with the API specification only, it will also work. But if you need API management related things, we can do that as well. So now let's do, I'll do a very short demo and show how it works. So for this demo, what I'm going to do is I got my employee service. So it's a very simple Spring service that I deployed. So from this service, I'm going to extract my employee service JSON. So developers, application developers, they are mainly familiar with open API definition. So they don't know how to write this Kubernetes YAML, gateway specification. So all these things, they are not aware. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to extract employee service JSON. And I'm going to convert this employee service JSON into Kubernetes artifact, and I'm going to deploy that into my Kubernetes cluster. So API gateway now need to now know how to handle incoming traffic for this API I just created, and it apply authentication, rate limiting, and all other quality of services. Okay, so let's see how we can do that. So I have installed WSO2 APK in my workstation. So I will type kubectl get pods. So now you can see it's installed properly, and these pods are running, and my actual application service is also running, which is employee service deployment, and my service is running within this. So now I'm going to get this Open API file and convert that into API. So this is my Open API file. It's a very simple one. Basically, explain all the things we have available in employee service. basically paths and other details that we need. And let me convert that to APK configuration. So to do that, I'm going to do this curl. So since I'm holding mic, I will just copy and paste these things. Not going to type. Okay, so with this, you can see we are generating APK configuration. So it's a very simple configuration with all the resources available in your API. And if you want to add additional details like rate limiting, authentication related stuff, you can do that as well. Let's see how we can do that. So this is sample configuration that I generated. So in addition to what's available in the service specification, I'm going to add rate limit. So I provide the rate limit and request per unit and the time unit as well. So in addition to that, if there are resources secured with specific scopes, I can include those scopes as well under the resources section, and I can enrich this configuration. So now I got my open API definition and APK configuration both. But still, most important thing is both these configurations are understandable by application developers. So they don't need to understand about all this Kubernetes related gateway specification thing. Okay, so next I'm going to generate my Kubernetes artifact. To do that, I'm going to pass both my APK configuration and employee service open API file. And then I'm going to extend that. So it will generate the zip file. So I have extracted that for you. And if you go to generated file, one you can see it's the config map. And then you can see HTTP route. So if you remember when I explained gateway API specification, I discussed about the HTTP route. So this is the same HTTP route that we generate for this particular API that we provided. So then I said we got something called top level entity named API. So this is the CR for this one as this API as well. And then there's a backend CR as well, specifically saying how your backends are deployed. So for example, let's say if you have like a weighted round robin algorithm based multiple backends, how you configure. So all these things we could do that here. So now I'm going to deploy this API. Okay, so these are the APIs available right now. So as you can see, all the APIs are internal APIs deployed by the APK system. So now I'm going to deploy my API. So to do that, I'm going to run kubectl. Okay, so I'm going to type kubectl apply -f CRDs because the CRD directory I created just now. So once I type this command, you can see it will generate API and endpoint and HTTP route and everything associated with my API. So now if I type same get APIs command, now you can see my newly created API also appear in a default namespace, which is not something deployed in the system organization level. So now I need to access this API. To do that, I'm going to obtain access token. So with this deployment, I have a token service as well. So I'm going to call that token service and generate access token and store that as a variable. Next, I'm going to invoke API with the same token that I generated. Okay, so now I can see employee service details. So if I send wrong token, then you will get error message. Likewise. So this is a very basic one. Very basic one says explain how this gateway part only work. But if you look at the whole ecosystem, then there will be multiple developer portals out there. You can build API marketplaces, and API governance aspect is there. And let's say when your consumers are there to search for APIs, AI capabilities are there. So basically you can explain your API requirement in natural language. So we can find a proper API for you. So all these AI capabilities are also there. So this is a very, very basic demo focusing on the demo part only. But if you are more interested, I would like to invite you all to go to these documents and read a little bit more and try to start using the product. So if you search WSO2 APK, you can go to our Git repo and documentation also there. So there are certain YouTube videos as well. And if you need any help, we have Discord community and StackOps also, we got collective. So if you put anything, we are happy to help you and provide you answers. Okay, I think I covered that part. Any questions?
Generally, with way more smarter ingress, generally go with form ingress controller.
Yeah.
Which typically provides you all the flexibility that is.
Annotations.
Are you saying this is an alternative to form ingress controller or?
Yeah, so if you look at the implementers who are supporting Gateway API specification, Kong is also one of them. So now if you are familiar with the Gateway API specification, so automatically Kong is something that is supported. Kong, Nginx, all these things are there. So if you go to these names, so Kong is there. So see, Kong, Puma, so all these things are there. So it will mainly give you the advantage by including all these vendor-specific annotations and covered functionalities into the specification. Yeah, that's it.
Can provide you with
yeah.
I know Kong has its own data store where it keeps the configuration, but what about this? Does it have its own database or how does it maintain?
So you're asking about APK or the, yeah. So APK also we are using, so if you are familiar with the Onoi, so Onoi comes with the Onoi rate linter. So we are utilizing that. And we have created CRs to create policies in Onoi rate linter. So basically we are wrapping that. And if you create policy CR, once you type kubectl apply -f policy CR.yaml, then we will automatically apply the cluster. Actual implementation will be the Onoi one.
And what about the scalability? For example, if I have a very high traffic application, we have tuned Kong to that level because we can accept millions of hits per minute. What about the performance?
Yeah, so this one performance mainly aligned with the Onoi gateway. So if you're familiar with the Onoi gateway, underlying actual implementation is the Onoi gateway. So it's more aligned with the Onoi gateway performance. So if I take you like, if I give you rough numbers, when we want to deploy APIs, you can roughly deploy about 8,000 APIs with like a few resources. But if you deploy some serious APIs where you have like 10 to 20 resources in each, possibly our recommendation is to go ahead with 2,000 APIs. And when it comes to TPS, it's somewhat different to what Kong does. So what Kong does is they got like a very large hardware and handle 30,000 kind of thing. But this one is more focused on the cloud native angle, where you give like half a core and like a 512 RAM, and it can handle up to 2,000 requests. So it's very dynamic thing. You can configure auto scale policies and everything. So it can handle up to any request count, and also it can scale down to zero as well. Very important, most important.
Standard cloud provider does it come at like
yeah, so I think, so I'm not going to comment on that because it's specific vendor names, because it can be like they are proprietary technologies. But I mean, performance-wise, I think Onoi, so we are mainly always compare with the Onoi gateway, which is the open source one. So it's somewhat, you are getting somewhat similar numbers compared to almost all the software-based load balancers and gateways.
That's one thing.
Sure.
Yeah. So I'm curious about like, let's say, like I'm designing for my client, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to choose gateway API, but obviously the client has a lot of requirements. But then the specific requirement that I'm very concerned about is, what do we do about security? Like in the sense you have your application sometimes, coming through CDN, like the traffic coming from CDN, you probably have a WAF. That's your first level of
Yeah.
work. And then let's say the attackers found smart ways to get in, and then we want to have another layer to block those kind of traffic. And like Nginx, I'm assuming even Kong, they have implemented something called mod security. So they use the CRS OWASP rule set.
Yeah.
Yeah. So is there any implementation that we can do in Gateway?
So Gateway API, you can like basically do the security stuff. You can say it's a OAuth secured one or something like that. But if you are to do some OS related like specific attacks prevention kind of thing, so most likely you will have to take this data and integrate with the external system. So 90% of the time you will have to do that because the specification won't cover about these details, I mean, internal details kind of things. So it basically says, okay, this service is secured with auth2 and call to external service, that kind of thing. So that service will know who is coming, this token. So basically that service can take usage and header and token, location. So by correlating all these things, that can make that decision. So specification do not specifically cover about those things, but it says you can do this authentication and authorization by calling to external services. So that's how it mainly covers in the specification. But if you look at the implementers, so for example, if you take the WSO2 APK, so when it comes to our gateway, we do have way to contact with AI-driven threat protection systems and do that analysis for that as well. So similar to that, almost all the implementers out there, they do have a way to do the same thing. But the specification won't cover that angle.
So basically, there is like a third party which needs to be involved.
Yeah.
And then you basically get the traffic, like understand from the third party application, and then it comes to okay.
Yeah. Because this is a very evolving thing, right? I mean, attackers today can be different from, so we cannot standardize or put that in this specification. Any other questions? Okay, so then I'll come to your question. So when it comes to data migration across mega cloud vendors or the different cloud vendors, so this particular specification or from the API management point of view, my recommended answer is like always go ahead with the standardizations. I mean, so if it's a API, possibly you can take this API configuration into Open API file or some well-defined standard specifications. And most of the time, if you take API data as Open API file, then almost all the API management vendors out there can understand that part. And see, when you go for security, open AI policies are there, and SACML, that kind of different standardizations are there. So these things will work. But when it comes to database sort of thing, caching, CDN kind of thing, I'm not right person to give that answer because there are area specialists focusing on those things. But from the API and the gateway point of view, what I can say is like always focus on the standardization. So get into standardized format, then almost all the cloud vendors can understand. So I'm pretty sure you can take Open API extractor and you can create API using that in Azure, Amazon, Google, or anywhere.
Only like there's a data alone when we are talking about the API. Like the big challenge, right, the partners of the customer. We have like around the complexity. When you're talking about that, because you are expert on that, right? You're talking about okay, we can change the API for this vendor to this vendor, but it's not easy job for the customer. So what we are looking here, like as customer, and think about like I'm customer, I'm looking for simple solution, right? Which move my data without any issue, and I can move this one, right? Because that is a more expectation for the end user. But the partners come to the picture and then they are saying, okay, I have the ISV solution or etc. But the cost is increased. So end of the day, they say, oh, I don't have a cost. I don't have this resource. I don't have this expert in my place. So what is the right solution? So API perspective, I'm not worried about that part. I'm worried about more like the data to actual data to move any other solution or from like Azure to AWS to Kubernetes. That is what we are looking for.
Yeah. So unfortunately, for that question, I cannot answer because I'm not the right person. But I think so. Going ahead with standardization always apply to this one as well. So as long as you have this data and important data in a way that everybody can understand is the.
I do a lot of argument because my job is as a the deputy lead for the entire entity, right? So I think like depend on your partner or your customer. Some partner is mature, some is not unmature partner, right? So who have a capability, yes, they do. But like for example, if I'm playing the Kubernetes at home, I play in my laptop, I just build something fancy stuff without thinking, right? So that way there's a lot of customers and the partner who build the solution. Later on, when there is scaling, right? Large scale perfecting, the clustering, expanding, etc., they face like some challenge. So I always think like a mature and mature partner perspective. What is the right approach? Like in future, that coming with that idea, I think it's have a lot for it.
Sure. I think we will save that topic and we can cover that in the future session. Okay, so I think with that I can wind up my session. Thiago, how do you?
Thank you.
Let's start with Ben. Hey guys, ready? Thank you. Later. Okay, we are about to start. Then you.
Oh, thank you guys for coming and staying. Yeah, you know that my talk maybe is not the most technical one, and I'm here more to talk about a little bit of my history and trying to motivate you guys out in the communities. So yeah, the talk is navigating the Kubernetes space, my journey from WebDev to CKAD. So let's start. First, um, okay, now we are. Oh, okay. So, a little bit of me. Can you find me in the picture? Yeah, that one was my first participation in this community, the Kubernetes user group. Yeah, exactly. With me, I was looking at someone's taking the picture, and it was Prasanna, and he took the picture. So this is me about the 3 weeks in Australia. I used to live in Japan, and my last job in Japan was a security officer in the data centers of AWS. And after that, I worked in Google's cloud computer data center as security officer. If you want to know why I moved, I can explain later. But when I was there, I got interested in this, right? Because you are I don't know if you have this idea, but a data center is a lot of servers. Most of people who work in tech never visit one data center to see where the cloud is running. But I was there, I was looking people coming in and out to change some pieces. It was actually the work as security officer is quite boring. So I had a lot of time to study. So I decided to study and become someone who can work in this industry, not just as a security officer, but as someone who can build something. So I decided to set my goals higher. And everybody has a starting point. So September 2022, I was there and decided to start learning. So I did what someone said to me. Yeah, start learning some JavaScript, CSS, and HTML. I believe that is the most way the self-taught developers start. So I started over there, just taking the first course and trying to build something. Then I keep learning. I learned introduction to cloud computing. That is right what most of the Kubernetes run, not on premise. And then I learned the Git and GitHub. Really, really helpful stuff in Git and GitHub. And my first job was into this platform called Mgmt, that is e-commerce. And that e-commerce is before was open source, then was sold to Adobe. And Adobe built both these and start selling as Adobe Commerce and on the cloud. And I was doing my first project on that. Then I joined learning about the accessibility, web accessibility. As a web developer, it's really important to make the website not just make available for people who can see and use the mouse. People who don't use this interface often need to be there. So I keep learning, I keep building my skills. Agile is really important in the developer world as well. But then hard work will pay off. Yeah, this is my GitHub account, my commits. I don't know, sorry, can I ask, who is a developer here? Okay, not so much. Who is a DevOps? Okay, cool. The other one, what they do, that's okay, no, just kidding. But yeah, this is the GitHub, and this is where you can see people committing. And yeah, I was committing. I got my job when I moved to Australia. After 1 month, I got one job as a web developer. And most of these commitments is related to my company. So I keep studying and keep putting there. So from no tech to tech, I built my expertise on web development. But I got interested in this world of cloud native applications because the company I work, they have this, I know you have heard about PhD, and yeah, this the servers, right? All the application was built in this PhD, some Java code using Tomcat application, so quite old. And the problem is, it was something that when the company starts doing this, maybe late 2010, it was in the edge, right? They are serving some applications, but right now, if you want to keep growing your business and you want the flexibility, you don't want to be like a server in your room, you want to be able to move fast, you need to be on the cloud. So we started moving applications that we have one here that work on this modernization, right? So we take the monolithic application, start breaking down that in microservices, stuff like that, containerization, and then you move to the containers, and then you have Kubernetes. So let's talk about how to learn Kubernetes, because I'm not the expert on the field. So I started trying to use all the resources available. So the curriculum of the CKAD is this one. You need to learn the storage, the troubleshooting, workload and scheduling, the cluster architecture, installation, configuration, and services and network. Which of these 5 do you believe is the most difficult? Yeah, troubleshooting for sure. What's the problem, right? What's not working? Yeah, so I try to use most of the resources available. I believe you saw that we are sponsored by Code Cloud. It's really wonderful platform to learn Kubernetes and DevOps and everything related to the cloud. I really recommend. And I started using this called Gitbook, gitbook.io. It's really powerful tool that you can connect with your GitHub account, create these markdown documents, and then you can use the search here that they integrate with the kind of AI, and then you can ask about the document that you have written. So I try to use most of these tools. Watch a little bit. Who knows what is config maps? Config maps? Wow, just one person. two, okay. 3, 4, okay, yeah, you got the right mark. Okay, config maps is secrets. This is some objects inside the Kubernetes. So just to give an overview, maybe not everybody, because this question is quite basic. Who have ever used Kubernetes before here? Okay, cool. So what do you think Kubernetes, who never used Kubernetes before, what do you think Kubernetes is? An idea? No? Okay, so Kubernetes is an orchestration for containers. What do I mean by orchestration? When you build, whoever uses containers? Containers? Okay, yeah. Get a little okay. Who knows what is a program? Yeah. So the idea of containers is when you build an app and you put inside a container, you don't need to build all the logic, basically all the programs that you need to run your application. Getting back to PHP, PHP usually runs with a server that was Apache or nowadays Nginx. So you need to have this kind of server running, and you need to install other packages or other programs to keep the application running. But when you containerize that, I mean, you need your operational system, you need the application, and then you put your code in there. But when you containerize all these layers, you make an image in a container, and then you can deploy using Kubernetes. The idea of Kubernetes is one server can serve maybe thousands of users, but so you got to a point that you want millions of users. So one thing that got me interested in Kubernetes was the Pokemon Go. Have you heard of Pokemon Go? I know that it is now old and stuff. But Pokemon Go, when they launched the game, was a sensation, right? Everybody downloaded and started playing that game. And it was one of the first use cases of the Kubernetes. Because they need to deploy many servers to get all that user using the application. So that's what Kubernetes can do. Kubernetes can scale up your applications in a way that you don't need to do it by yourself. Because sometimes, not back in the history, but many still people today, they see the user base growing. Oh, I need to provide another server. I need to contract and buy more pieces to make my server more robust. This is called vertical scaling. So you are building more stuff. But in Kubernetes, you can do the horizontal scaling that you are just deploying more of your same app. Okay, let's get an overview. So config maps and secrets is something that you can, oh, sorry. I just got, yeah. So config maps and secrets is part of the application that you can set up outside of your application. So it's like configurations like the background should be this color. I want to change this later. So you don't need to build this in your container, because the container, when you are changing, you need to build again the container. So, but the config maps is something this kind of configurations. And the secrets, it's like the API key that you are using for some application. You don't want to put that in your source code. Actually, it's the best practice to not put your API key in your source code, okay? So yeah, then you can just update these things and your cluster can just get this information. So this is something that you need to learn and understand to pass this CKAD. And then you need to practice. Rest a little bit and practice again. And then as I was telling you, you should learn from the best in the class. Yeah, the best in the class for sure is CloudCasa, not just because they sponsor us. Thank you for sponsoring us. But it is really, really nice. So I took this course called the Kubernetes, Certified Kubernetes Application Developer. Took 15 hours, videos, plus labs. I was really surprised because when I registered to get this course, I got the access to this because I'm volunteer here. I got access in the end of January, and I was like, okay, let's do this. And in the introduction of the course, they say if you study about 3 or 4 hours per day, it will take 6 months to finish. Well, no way, I don't have 6 months. I don't have 6 months. I want to keep learning this, but I work and I have another job, and then I come back late instead of 2 hours and keep studying, trying to study understand. I don't take 6 months, okay? It's just this goal. You will take it about 6 months. Sorry, yeah. It was 6 months if you studied 2 hours. If you studied 4 hours, it was 4 months, but I could have done in less time. But yeah, I really recommend CloudCloud. You can access CloudCloud by the platform itself, or you can buy on Udemy. And Udemy, sometimes they have these promotions, right? You can just buy them for $15 or so, and really recommend. So another thing, technical. What is this? Can you understand what is this diagram here? Any idea? Okay, so let me explain something about Kubernetes. What is the orchestration of containers? The idea of containers is to be ephemeral. So if the containers for some reason stop working, it will be bring down, deleted everything, and then Kubernetes will run up another container. So your application will be available again. So usually we set how many replicas we want of that containers. Just one is not good because if that is down, you don't have to server anymore your application. And but the problem is the replica sets for the deployment is that the container lives for a short period, and when they come back again, they come with another, not another name, but another identification. And if you try to put the container by its IP, if you come with another IP, because sometimes it will not be deployed in the same node, it will be deployed in another node, another cluster sometimes. Then you have this that is a stateful set. And stateful set, what it does is deploy the containers in an order and keep the identification of the container so you can use the name, in this case, pod 01, pod 1, as identification in your application. So you don't need to care about, oh, what's going to be the IP of this container later on. You can just name it as 0 because it always starts with 0, 1, 2, 3, and so on. Okay, too much technical, right? Let's see what is the exam itself. So the Kubernetes certified Kubernetes application developer and the Kubernetes administrator and the security is hands-on exam. So you need, so where to start? It's good, okay. Sorry. That's not right. So because it's hands-on exam, this is almost how the interface of the exam looks like. And I just put the layers to understand because you can access the documentation during the exam. So you have a question, you have a terminal, I have another terminal just to in case, and you can access the documentation. So what's going on here? I am just editing one deployment file. One thing that happens in the deployment, you need to understand what they are asking, where you need to set the results. So it's basically configurations. You need to be really used to do these configurations. And a lot of copy and paste. A lot of copy and paste. Don't try to type yourself because sometimes this kind of stuff is 1.17.3 and you mess up for one digit and you break everything. So just copy and paste is totally fine. So this is a simulation. This is, I believe, the official simulation for the Kubernetes exam. During the exam, you cannot screen recorded the screen, but the simulation I was feel free to record it. And this is about 5 minutes that you need to just solve this question. And during the exam, you're gonna receive from 15 to 20 questions, and you have only 2 hours to complete. So you have about 6 to 8 minutes per question. And if you are not used to do this, I'm using Bing, I'm not that familiar with Bing. I prefer using Word, sorry. Yeah, if I could use VS Code, it would be much easier for sure, but the example you have the Bing or Nano, and you need to do these indentations. Who have this word indentations, this is space, because this file that is the YAML file is converted to a JSON, and the indentation is what will make the parents and the childs of that. And here I'm struggling just to confirm, oh, this configuration should be where, okay, privilege something, because they asked for the allow privilege escalation to be false. I come to the documentation, I look where it is, okay, I found what it is. But because that is the configuration of a pod that is not of the deployment, it is in this part. This is deployment, have to cassette, and then the pod, and then in the pod, you need to put this allow privilege escalation. So I was trying to figure out, okay, what it is. And yeah, during the exam, you need to use this as well. You need to get used to look to the documentation, because you can access the documentation, but you cannot bookmark. So I already had gone through this documentation before, so I know that this will be here somewhere. So I just keep looking, and then I found where it should be, because this is, each dot is one level down. So I knew that it should be in these containers, in this grid context, and the low privilege. And then I was feeling, well, W key, let's go. Delete the pod. The pod was deleted. Then I was trying to, okay, and to apply, can just apply file, recopy the file, and put in there. Okay, oh, something wrong again. So you need to read again, and just say that this expire template status was unknown field. So I need to come back and say, okay, I made a mistake somewhere in the file. I need to go back and edit again. So I was looking down, and then I thought, okay, this status should not be in there. Maybe it should be in the pod, so I get the indentation. Okay, then let's try again. Oh, and then I realized, wait. That field is empty. Why is there? Why are you even putting there? So just delete. Because it's empty, right? It's an empty field. You don't need again for that computer getting. Okay, so I just deleted that and apply, and the application was done. And that's, so sometimes you need to think a little bit outside of the box, not just because the information is there. You need to really think. It is really nice kind of exam, in a sense that it's not just you need to memorize all the commands. You can search these commands, but you need to think. You need to train how to think to solve this kind of problems. And yeah, I got my certification. And yeah. Yeah. I got the certification in the last day of March. Yeah, and also Mark, my bro in the exam. Yeah, study buddies. He also got the certificate the same day. And why we got the certificate? Yeah. And why we decided to take the certification per month of March? Any reason? Before the 1st April, yeah, because from 1st of April, this certification will be valid only for 2 years. And 31 of March now is 3 years. So I got 3 years certified, and I don't need to do this exam again for 3 years. Okay. So what's next? The next is this, the Kubernetes administrator and the Kubernetes security specialist. Actually, the founder of this group, he is an inspiration for us, especially for me. And he is one of the Kuber astronauts. That is the new title for who has the 5 certifications related to the Kubernetes. Yeah, the blue jacket, exactly, yeah. It was announced last month on the KubeCon. And hopefully, if I keep doing like this, I can get a blue jacket as me. So that's it. Thank you so much for listening to my answer. Right, and let's go to the cloud. Thank you.
Yep. Good. All right. Thanks. Yep. Thiago, I've got a microphone now, so this is easier. Just get, oh, just gonna unmute for the online audience. It's good. Alrighty. So interestingly, I started the first Sydney Docker meetup in 2014. And in 2014, Kubernetes was an idea, right? So actually, we did a debate in 2017 which orchestration tool would take off. So back in that time, there was Kubernetes, there was Docker Swarm, there was Rancher, Nomad, Amazon ECS, and they were all battling out for the orchestration battle, who would come out on top. And both debates that we ran in Sydney and Melbourne, Kubernetes won in 2017. And since then, I'm pretty sure they've taken over. And I think even Rancher uses Kubernetes to run Rancher now. But before it didn't, before it was its own thing. So yeah, Kubernetes has come a long way. So it's really exciting that where it is. And yeah, so we'll keep going. Let's see this next slide. All right. Not block video. Okay, so if you're not already following us, please get your phone out. LinkedIn, Twitter, Telegram, your social media of choice, to stay up to date with all the free training, with all the meetups. Yong is pretty active. He's running them all over the world. So if you do follow, you'll be able to, probably any country you visit, he'll be there. So he's a cool guy. So. Excellent. So your input is very valuable to us. So what we'd like you to do now is to get the QR code, scan the QR, and give us some feedback. So I'll give you some time now to do that. Alrighty. I do think there's a 2-minute timer. Can't seem to, I'm just going to click on it and see what happens. Not working. Okay. Well, we'll just guess. We'll give you a minute. We've got some giveaways. Seems like there's some giveaways. So if you get some questions correct,
There's more than some. But
Oh, there's some swag. So that's the advantage of coming in person. You get pizza, you get drinks, you get networking, and you get some free swag. So next time, the people at home, if you can make it, it's great. There's a really nice view here at the AWS offices too. We're good to get started with the game, or okay? Thank you, Emma.
thank you so much. So we will be moving on to our Comp quiz now. If you joined us previously, you know that this is where we test your knowledge on the previous topics, if you've been listening for that. Let me just quickly set up for the quiz, and if you just finish up on your surveys. Here's the QR code. It's not on there. Reshare that screen.
Yep. No. And then,
That one.
yep. Perfect.
Thank you.
Cool.
Here we go. How are we going? 34. We're about ready? All right. So we've got 10 questions. And correctness and speed are key. So first one, we have, what does the Gateway API primarily manage? Is it databases, storage, traffic, or pods? So go about 30 seconds on each question. Finished early. We have some examples of quick sneak peek of some swag. So these are actually all the way from the bag. That's an easy first one for most people anyways. But a variety of t-shirts. Next question. So which resource is used for defining traffic routing rules in Gateway API? We've got ingress class, HTTP route, service route, or pod selector. Bit tougher. Good job to those who did get it. It was HTTP route. Next one. So which API resource acts as an entry point in Gateway API? Entry point, HTTP entry, gateway, or router? Cool. Good job to about half of people, actually a bit less. Question 4, what is a key feature of the Gateway API compared to traditional ingress? So is it auto scaling, enhanced routing, automated deployment, or built-in monitoring? And it is enhanced routing. Next one. Which of the following is not directly related to Gateway API? Is it either HTTP route, gateway, deployment, or gateway class? No one got that right. So that's what it is. Oh, okay. Must be a quiz malfunction for that one. We don't count that one. It's okay. Moving on. Halfway through. So we had one of our speakers come from this company, and their APK primarily enhances what aspect of Kubernetes? WSO2's storage management, API management, pod scheduling, or network policy enhancement, enforcement. Now, what Kubernetes feature allows you to inject information into pods at runtime without modifying the application image? Volumes or config maps or secrets or both A and C? Okay. Question 8. Which of the following statements about stateful sets is true? Is it they are ideal for stateless applications? They assign a unique identifier to each pod as maintained across rescheduling. They do not support persistent storage, or they can't manage pods that require a stable network identity. Of course, it's the long one. So, second last question. Which of the following is not a valid Kubernetes service type? Cluster IP, node port, external name, or direct access? Okay, it is direct access. And lucky last. Helm charts in Kubernetes are used to either monitor the performance of a cluster, package and delay applications, implement network policies, or automate the scaling of pods. See the leaderboard moving. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay. Okay, it still counts according to the. All right. Well, we learn and we grow. So with this interesting quiz, we'll go to the leaderboard. Wow. Congratulations to everyone who participated. Do you want to announce the winners? I can just hand out the slides. Yeah.
Okay. So the number one is Yosh. Was quick in response. Yeah, please. We have some swags in here.
So they actually come all the way from KubeCon in Paris and some of these, and also from Microsoft at the MVP event in Seattle. Yes, Seattle. Just arrived today, actually. Yeah, sure thing. Congratulations.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Five, 9.8.
Okay, next one. Asika. Asika, yeah. Yeah, choose your specs.
Don't worry, guys. Most of you will probably end up with something, and the stickers are free for all. So yeah. There's a lot of pictures as well.
Okay, girl is Yao. Yao. Congratulations, Yao. Yeah, please.
The t-shirts are in size small, medium, and large. And then these ones are labeled. Yeah. So there's like yeah, that's a Susei. That's very rare actually.
Yeah. SB1 come service one, so yeah, please. Cool. Then add that is great. Oh yeah. Awesome. Nice. Hey, Karin Ruby. Yep. Yeah. Okay.
Oh, yeah, we want to announce that, so.
Oh yeah, yeah, we should announce it, right?
Oh,
Yeah, the cloud. Yeah, the cloud.
You got your CKAD.
Yeah, so we have 3.
Yes.
That's confirmed. Sorry, I just had the confirmation from the organization here that we have 3 free access for 6 months in the CloudCasa platform.
So if you guys still want to switch,
if anyone offered this course that I already come here want to change their swag for the access, it's okay. Anyone?
so this is the subscription that helps first Thiago.
Yeah, this is the one that I got, and it is really helpful platform to learning. So if you are into this Kubernetes DevOps words, I really recommend. But don't mind, any swag is really nice. But this is 6 months free access, around $3,000. 3,000, sorry, $300. Once it's right there.
It felt like $3,000.
Yeah, 3,000. 3,000, more than $3,000 if you're thinking the acknowledgement that you get.
Yeah.
But yeah. Yeah. So okay, so this is also on the table. Okay, if anyone want to get this, I will keep inviting you to come here. You can say if you want to have the cloud access. We will just get your full name and email address, and then we will send you the link. Okay, so as then 6 Yashkande, wow. Wow, cool. Congrats.
That's good for Melbourne. Yeah.
Yeah, that one. Yeah. Okay, cool. Good. Yeah, I have many cameras. Camera one, camera two. Thank you. Okay, next is K8SUG. It's online. It's online. If you are still online, you can send a message to us on Zoom. We cannot send the thing of the slides, but if you are interested in the Code Cloud access, you can say in 1 minute. I will let you 1 minute to decide, okay? Hold on. If you want last time? Yeah. So I hope you are doing the best usage of that. Okay. Harry, I know that Harry is doing great and you got the access as well, right? No. Aksha Kumar. Awesome. Congrats. Congrats, man. So what? Thank you. Yeah, we have a lot of swag, so yeah, let's speed it up. So I will call Malining and Juan, just come. three of you guys. So Malining and Juan, come.
It's okay. Oh, it was organized. It's okay. So large, and then yeah, that's really good.
Yeah,
That's like a 2-in-1. 2-in-1.
Shiva and Ketan as well. I like that small.
Small? Okay. Oh, that's down. You do have that, yeah.
Oh yeah, you grab a short.
Thank you. Yeah.
Large, so these are large size. So large and then that one. Yeah. That's a plush toy. That's a toy, yeah. Rancher. Yeah, rancher. So these are all medium.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Stick around for group photos.
Yeah. Please don't leave. Okay, so next. So CSPAC, Shobit, and Vicent, please come to pick your prize as well. Oh, now it's you get some. Thank you.
Sure. Something small. Small. There's only one as well.
Yeah, I'm just have a picture. Yeah, just.
These are mediums. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
There's smalls as well. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, just let's have a picture. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you, thank you. Okay, so our stop was this. So next is now and MVP. Yeah. Yeah, good choice. Yeah, I just think your animation. Just like the name.
What size? Medium left. Medium has four. And it's fine as well. And yeah.
Cool. Thank you. Okay, thank you. Thank you. Okay, so I would fail. Who said that? Who was that? Oh, what's that? Who don't believe in himself? Come here, you didn't fail. Here, nobody fails. It's just one step closer to the success. Yeah, please. You can. We still have one code access, okay? This is the last one, so you can not get the fence.
I found another two. These are cool. They're pink.
Cool.
Oh yeah, so what size? Medium. Yeah. That's not size. Yeah. I love the soft actually.
Okay, guys. So I will call this is the last. Everybody will get. So everybody who is here and didn't get the swag yet, please come get your swag.
Yeah.
Sorry, yeah, you have just one. Yeah, then I need to okay. Sorry, next event. Okay, let's just announce here. We are every first Wednesday here in the Amazon. So if you didn't get the cloud access this time, you can try next time.
Some of these are medium.
Almost.
Yeah.
Come next month.
We like that one. August. Yeah, so yeah, and I think it's funny. Yeah, so these are all extra large.
Stay for the
What's on the outside?
just after that, yeah.
Size is small.
Okay.
For rancher. Yes. Yeah.
Thank you, guys. Okay, so we have a traditional big photo. I just opened the big space here, so.
Stickers, anyone? But it's one of the. Yeah, just going for a group photo. Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah, there we go. That's all.
That's a lot of stickers.
Yeah, it looks really nice. Get a chair to stand on or something. Yeah, we can. Or you have that on the table. Help me up. Should have done it at the start. It was double. Yeah.
Hey, everybody say Kubernetes.
Guys, we really need to get rid of these. Medium.
I don't too big.
The medium. That one's a small. That's medium. Sorry. That's medium.
Get stuck in. You have to light up. Oh, that's motivation. I did that as well, by the way. I should get a bit easy. One less slice. Yeah. Okay, so that's motivation. So I can awesome. Should have done it at the start. Should have done the photo at the start.
Yeah. I mean, like starting with the kitchen.
Yeah.
Or
just get people to hold really still and do a panorama.
Like sing it down, but it's not the same. Like yeah.
Thanks for coming. Thank you very much. Nice meeting you.
Thank you.
Damn, I blink. Can you redo it?
Oh, you blinked. You blinked.
If they took a few photos.
Who did that? Who did that? Oh, this guy.
Yeah, I almost do it. Yeah, we all look good. Great.
I thought I wouldn't be seen, or at least my hand was going to be in the shot because I went over the back.
No.
There we go. There we go. Awesome.
Red-handed.
Yeah, that way. If someone is blinking, you can do
The face like this, merge them all together. This photo.
Yeah.
There needs to be an AI, like an AI tool for that. Where it's
No, the pixelate.
Yeah,
The whole point of the
exactly.
pixelate is that.
Adding like that. Yeah.
Yeah. Stitches.
They're like remove people and stuff like that. I was gonna say, like, it's pretty good. Did it want like, Excel, small, and front is audio. No, I think it's because I don't remember what's saying it's all. Okay, we'll book the rest in here. Yeah, that's where I got the wrench and stuff. The pin.
That's pretty good. Yeah,
Yeah, so it's a little bit on the. Yeah. I'm just wondering if the brand is the one last time. So
We'll go to McDonald's too. We'll go. It's only expensive.
Yeah, did you have banner you want to get?
If you would like to, I mean, happy to. I'll come take it down. Are you happy to take it home? Maybe for next one. If you're,
I'll send it to Mark. Mark, you take it. Mark,
I can take on my screen.
no,
I'll do it.
on my shoulder while I'm on the scooter one hand. I need to go home. I was meant to do my CKA exam tomorrow, but unfortunately today I worked for 13 hours. I had no time left to study, so I postponed it until next weekend because this week I'm going to Brisbane. Literally flying out. Like you looked at my schedule before, right? I'll show you my schedule right now. That's my schedule without work. Without work. So it's like from like 9 p.m. onwards. But absolutely. My next step is flying to Brisbane. Literally 6:30 p.m. right after work. Sunday night. That's my schedule. I've been playing for friends.
Yeah, I did. Thank you. So many lessons to do this. API gateway, API. Yeah.
So I'm pretty close to Excel.
What do you do?
I've written another job.
Yeah.
Got my CKAD as well.
Awesome.
That's why that is eating.
Yes. I think it's it's a not exercise.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah. Then you got to look at the it.
Yeah. How do you not gain weight, buddy?
I had
I'll still gain weight.
3/3 of the pizza I ate. Actually.
Oh, I'll gain weight for money. You're just transferring your calories to me. Telepathically.
I'm wondering what this.
Where did it go? Calories go. I'll just run hot. Like they immediately just burn off calories. They juice.
I did say I was younger, and then I thought, I need to put some weight on to build some muscle. And then I was like, yeah, build some muscle. And then it just fatter.
Yes. Yes, you do. To let him know. So I think we will have to know.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna take my laptop down.
It's a stress of that.
Let's wrap it up now.
Kind of developed.